It's long. It is January the 11th, 2019. This is your Bro Gray Bay. And first, I'll be reading from the Holy Bible, King James Version, Matthew chapter 13. Parable of the Sower. The same day went Jesus out of the house and sat by the seaside, and great multitudes were gathered together unto him, so that he went into a ship and sat, and whole multitude stood on the shore. Next section of the chapter, teacher or rabbi. And he spake many things unto them in parables, saying, Behold, a sower went forth to sow. And when he sowed, some seeds fell by the wayside, and the fowls came and devoured them up. Some fell upon stony places, where they had not much earth, and forthwith they sprung up, because they had no deepness of earth. And when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprung up, and choked them. But others fell into good ground, and brought forth fruit, some 100-fold, some 60-fold, some 30-fold. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. And the disciples came and said unto him, Why speakest thou unto them in parables? He answered and said unto them, Because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. For whosoever hath to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away, even that he hath. Therefore speak I to them in parables, because they seeing see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand. Okay. Fulfillment. Next section. Fulfillment formulas. And in them is fulfilled the prophecies of Esaias, which saith, By hearing ye shall hear, and shall not understand, and seeing ye shall see, and shall not perceive. For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears, and should understand with their heart, and should be converted, and I shall heal them. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For verily I say unto you, that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see those things which ye see, and have not seen them, and to hear those things which ye hear, and have not heard them. Hear ye therefore the parable of the sower. When any one heareth the word of the kingdom, and understandeth it not, then cometh the wicked one, and catcheth away that which was sown in his heart. This is he which received seed by the wayside. But he that received the seed into stony place, the same is he that heareth the word, and anon with joy receiveth it. Yet hath he not rooted in himself, but dareth for a while. For when tribulation and persecution ariseth because of the word, by and by he is offended. He also that receives seed among thorns is he that heareth the word, and the care of this world, and the deceitfulness of riches, choke the world, and he becometh unfruitful. But he that receives seed into the good ground is he that heareth the word, and understandeth it, which also heareth the word, and bringeth forth some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, The kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man, which sowed good seeds in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat, and went his way. But when the blade was sprung up and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. So the servants of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, didst thou not thou sow good seed in thy field? From whence then hath it tares? He said unto them, An enemy hath done this. The servants said unto him, Wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? But he said, Nay, lest while ye gather up the tares, ye root up also the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. And in the time of the harvest I will say to the reapers, Gather ye together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, The kingdom of heaven is like to a grain of mustard seed, which a man took and sowed in his field, which indeed is the least of all seeds. But when it is grown, it is the greatest among herbs, and becometh a tree, so that the birds of the air come and lodge in the branches thereof. Another parable spake he unto them. The kingdom of heaven is like unto leaven, which a woman took and hid in 3 measures of meals, till the whole was leavened. All these things spake Jesus unto the multitudes in parables, and without a parable spake he not unto them, that it might be fulfilled which hath spoken by the prophet, saying, I will open my mouth in parables, I will utter things which have been kept secret from the foundation of the world. Next section. Interpretation of parables. Then Jesus sent the multitudes away, and went into the house. And his disciples came unto him, saying, Declare unto us the parable of the tares of the field. He answered and said unto them, He that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world. The good seed are the children of the kingdom, but the tares are the children of the wicked one. The enemy that sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. As therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be in the end of this world. The Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and them which do iniquity, and shall cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto treasure hid in a field, the which when a man hath found, he hideth, and for joy thereof goeth and selleth all that he hath, and buyeth that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a merchant man seeking goodly pearls, who when he had found one pearl of great price, went and sold all that he had and bought it. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a net that was cast into the sea and gathered of every kind, which when it was full, they drew to shore and sat down and gathered the good vessels, but cast the bad away. So shall it be at the end of the world. The angels shall come forth and sever the wicked from among the just, and shall cast them into the furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of the teeth. Jesus saith unto them, Have you understood all these things? They say unto him, Yea, Lord. Next section. Identity of author. Then said he unto them, Therefore every scribe which is instructed unto the kingdom of heaven is like unto a man that is an householder, which bringeth forth out of his treasure things new and old. And it came to pass that when Jesus had finished these parables, he departed thence. And when he was come into his own country, he taught them in their synagogue, insomuch that they were astonished, and said, Whence hath this man this wisdom, and these mighty works? Is not this the carpenter's son? Is not his mother called Mary, and his brethren James and Joseph, is Simon and Judas, and his sisters, are they not all with us? Whence then hath this man all these things? And they were offended in him. But Jesus said unto them, A prophet is not without honor, save in his own country, and in his own house. And he did not many mighty works there because of their unbelief. It's long. That was chapter 13 of Matthew of the Holy Bible. Next, I will be reading out of Circle 7 Quran. Chapter 10. Wait 1 second. It's okay. Let's go on this. Jesus spake on the unity of Allah and man to the Hindus. Benares is the sacred city of the Brahms, and in Benares Jesus taught. Udraka was his host. Udraka made a feast in honor of his guests, and many high-born Hindu priests and scribes were there. And Jesus said to them, with much delight, I speak to you concerning life and brotherhood of life. The universal Allah is one, yet he is more than one. All things are one. By the sweet breath of Allah, all life is bound in one. So if you touch a fiber of a living thing, you send a thrill from center to the outer bounds of life. And when you crush me, okay, hold on, I read this already. I read it already, but I read this recently already. It's supposed to be on chapter 11. Chapter 11. Jesus and Bharata, together they read these sacred books. Among the Buddhist priests was one who sought a lofty wisdom in the words Jesus spoke. It was Bharata Arabo. Together, Jesus and Bharata read the Jesus Psalms, and prophets read the Vedas, the Avesta, and the wisdom of the Gautama. And as they read and talked about the possibilities of man, Bharata said, Man is the marvel of the universe. He is part of everything, for he has been a living thing in every plane of life. Time was when man was not, and then he was a bit of formless substance in the moods of time, and then a protoplast. By universal law, all things tend upward to a state of perfectness. The protoplast evolved, becoming worm, then reptile, bird, and beast, then at last it reached the form of man. Now man himself is mind, and mind is here to gain perfection by experience. And mind is often manifest in fleshy form, and in the form best suited to its growth. So mind may manifest as worm, or bird, or beast, or man. The time will come when everything of life will be evolved unto the state of perfect man. And after man is man in perfectness, he will evolve to higher forms of life. And Jesus said, Bharata Arabo, who told you this? That mind, which is man, may manifest in the flesh of beast, or bird, or creeping thing. Bharata said, From time which man remembers not, our priests have told us so, and so we know. And Jesus said, Enlighten Arabo, are you a mastermind, and do not know that man knows not by being told? Man may believe that what others say, but thus he never knows. If man would know, he must himself be what he knows. Do you remember Arabo when you were ape, or bird, or worm? Now, if you have not better proving of your plea than that the priests have told you so, you do not know, you simply guess. Regard not, then, what any man has said. Let us forget the flesh, and go with mind into the land of fleshless things. Mind never does forget. And backwards through the ages, masterminds can trace themselves, and thus they know. Time never was when man was not. That which begins will have an end. If man was not, the time will come when he will not exist. From Allah's own record book, we read, the triune Allah breathed forth, and stood 7 spirits before his face. The Hebrews called these 7 spirits Elohim. And these are they who, in their boundless power, created everything that is or was. These spirits of the triune Allah moved on the face of the boundless space, and 7 others were, and every other had its form of life. These forms of life were but the thought of Allah, clothed in the substance of their ether planes. Men call these ether planes the planes of protoplast, of earth, of plant, of beast, of man, of angel, and cherubim. These planes, with all their teeming thoughts of Allah, are never seen by eyes of man and flesh. They are composed of substance far too fine for fleshly eyes to see, and still they constitute the soul of things. And with the eyes of soul, all creatures see these ether planes in all forms of life, because all forms of life on every plane are thoughts of Allah. All creatures think, and every creature is possessed of will, and in its measure has the power to choose. And in their native planes, all creatures are supplied with nourishment from the ethers of their planes. And so it was with every living thing, until the will became a sluggish will, and then the ethers of the protoplast, the earth, the plant, the beast, the man, began to vibrate very slow. The ethers became more dense, and all the creatures of these planes were clothed with coarser garbs of flesh, which men can see, and thus the coarser manifest, which men call physical, appeared. And this is what is called the fall of man. But man fell not alone, for protoplast and earth and plant and beast were all included in the fall. The angels and the cherubim fell not. Their will were never strong, and so they held the ethers of their planes in harmony of Allah. Now when the ether reached the rate of atmosphere, and all the creatures of these planes must get their food from atmosphere, the conflict came, and then that which the finite man calls survival of the best became a law. The stronger ate the bodies of the weaker manifest. And here is where the carnal of evolution had its rise. And now man, in its utter shamelessness, strikes down and eats the beast. The beast consumes the plant thrives on the earth absorbs the protoplast. In yonder kingdom of the soul, this carnal evolution is not known, and the great work of masterminds is to restore the heritage of man, to bring him back to his estate that he had lost, when he again will live upon the ethers of his native plane. The thoughts of Allah change not. The manifest of life on every plane unfolds into perfection of their kind, and as the thoughts of Allah can never die, there is not death to any being of the 7 ethers, of the 7 spirits, of the triune Allah. And so an earth is never plant, a beast or bird or creeping thing is never man, and man is not, and cannot be, a beast or bird or creeping thing. The time will come when all these manifests will be absorbed, and man and beast and plant and earth and protoplast will be redeemed. But Rata was amazed. The wisdom of the Jewish sage was revelation unto him. Now Vidyapati, wisest of the Indian sages, chief of the temple Kapivastu, heard Bharata speak to Jesus of the origin of man, and heard the answer of the Hebrew prophet. And he said, the priest of Kapivastu heard me speak. And we stand today upon a crest of time. 6 time ago a master soul was born, who gave a glorious light to man. And now a master sage stands in the temple of Kapivastu. The Hebrew prophet is a rising star of wisdom, deified. He brings to us the knowledge of the sacred things of Allah, and all the world will hear his words and glorify his name. The priests of temple Kapivastu say, be still, and listen when he speaks. He is the living oracle of Allah. And all the priests gave thanks. and praised the Buddha of enlightenment, Islam. That was chapter 11 of the Circle 7 Quran. And lastly, I'll be reading sections 9 through 13 of the 1320. Section 9. The regulation and control of the right to labor or service in any of the states south of latitude 36 degrees 30 is hereby recognized to be exclusively the right of each state within its own limits, and this Constitution shall not be altered or amended to impair this right of each state without its consent, provided this article shall not be construed to absolve the United States from rendering assistance to suppress insurrections of domestic violence when called upon by any state, as provided in Section 4, Article 4 of this Constitution. Section 10. No state shall pass any law in any way interfering with or obstructing the recovery of fugitives from justice, or from labor or service, or any law of Congress made under Article 4, Section 2 of this Constitution. And all laws in violation of this section may, on complaint made by any person or state, be declared void by the Supreme Court of the United States. Section 11. As a right of comity between the several states south of latitude 36 degrees 30, the right of transit with persons held to involuntary labor or service from one state to another shall not be obstructed, but such persons shall not be brought into states north of said latitude. Section 12. That traffic in slaves with Africa is hereby forever prohibited on pain of death, and the forfeiture of all the rights and property of persons engaged therein, and the descendants of Africans shall not be citizens. Section 13. Alleged fugitives from labor or service on request shall have a trial by a jury before being returned. Islam. Alright, now section 9 through 13 of the 1320. See if I can find that page. I can go ahead and read it. Oh, here it is. There we go. And lastly, I want to try to read this at the end of every recording. I'll be reading the joint resolution which made the Holy Bible public law in 1982, October 4th. Whereas the Bible, the Word of God, has made a unique contribution in shaping the United States as a distinctive and blessed nation and people, whereas deeply held religious convictions springing from the Holy Scriptures led to the early settlement of our nation, whereas biblical teachings inspired concepts of civil government that are contained in our Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States, whereas many of our great national leaders, among them Presidents Washington, Jackson, Lincoln, and Wilson, pay tribute to the surpassing influence of the Bible in our country's development, as in the words of President Jackson, that the Bible is the rock on which our republic rests. Whereas the history of our nation clearly illustrates the value of the voluntary applying the teachings of the Scriptures in the lives of the individual families and societies. Whereas this nation now faces great challenges that will test this nation as it has never been tested before. And whereas the renewing our knowledge of and faith in God through Holy Scripture can strengthen us as a nation and the people. Now, therefore, be it. This is resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America and Congress assembled, and the President is authorized and requested to designate 1983 as a national year of the Bible, in recognition of both the formative influence the Bible has been for our nation, and our national need to study and apply the teachings of the Holy Scriptures. Approved October 4th, 1982. Islam. Today again is January the 11th, 2019. This was a Body Bro Gray Bay song.